Hi there. I'm Tom, the middle son, and I've got a short letter here I want to read from my dad's sister, my mom's sister-in-law from Australia that just arrived. Although for many years now Betty's been thousands of miles away, I have thought of her often. The memories I have of my big brother Nelson and his wife are some of the happiest memories I have. I never really thought of her as a sister-in-law, but more as like a big sister that I never had. Back in Belfast, when I was just a girl, I would go to her house, would spend many hours together. Coming out to Australia on a ship with my mom and I to marry my brother is another beautiful memory I cherish. When Betty and Nelson arrived and lived in Australia, the days we spent in Geelong and Torquay Beach, watching the kids swim and play together, are days I still think about and talk about with a smile on my face. I'm so grateful our kids were able to get to know their auntie, uncle, and cousins and have a connection that still continues today. The big family get-togethers and the nights spent listening to music, singing songs, and having fun were some of the best times of my life. The one song I remember Betty sang so beautifully was Blue Moon. I loved her singing that. When Brendan, my husband, and I got the opportunity to travel to the U.S., she opened her home, heart, and arms to us. I have many fond memories of that time, and although it has been 30 years since then, our chats on the phone over the years have meant so much to me. Although many miles apart, I love Betty like a sister, and I'm sad that her time here has come to an end. She will be sadly missed. To my niece and nephews, Kathy, Michael, Tom, and Stephen, your mom was a strong-willed but kind woman who has raised 4 amazing kids. My thoughts and prayers are with you all, and may you always remember what a beautiful mother we have. Eddie's now back with the love of her life, and I'm sure your mom and dad will be watching over you all. God bless. Harry. Just a couple of small things about my mom. She spent the last 10, 12 years out in Vegas. We got very close over the years. Had a lot of fond memories, spent some good times together. And as my mom developed this sickness, she always told me that she wanted me to go back to Ireland, as well as my dad. And I just didn't know that when I planned the trip, it was going to be when my mom took real ill. So I was up to the last minute where I decided where I was going to be able to go or not. I talked to her doctor, and he suggested I go, and there was a good possibility that she'd still be here when I got back. And I thought about it. The last 2 days I spent with my mom at her living facility, which was only a block from my house. I got through the last 2 days, and it got to the point where my mom didn't really even know I was there, much less know where she was at. So that was a little bit easier for me to go on the trip that she'd always wanted me to go on. But I spent a week in England, a week in Scotland over at the Pipe Band Championships, and had a wonderful time. Always checking back with my wife in Vegas to check on Mom and see how things were going. And then at the end of the Scotland part, I went down to a place called Strelane down in southern Scotland, and I was getting ready to get on the ferry the next day. The ferry was busy and overbooked Sunday, so I had to stay at a bed and breakfast that night. And I got into bed about 10 o'clock their time, and of course, 1 o'clock in the morning, which would have been 5 here on the West Coast, I got a text from one of her caretakers to say that Mom had passed. So after a short, good cry, I got in the shower, and I thought to myself, wow, you know, Mom waited till the day of that I was going back home to Belfast, where her and Dad were from, where I was born. And got down to the dock, got on the boat. It was a beautiful day, crossed the Irish Sea, and thought a lot about our growing up. And went over towards Ireland, and it was just as beautiful as my parents had told me it was going to be. Just very green, 40 shades of green. And it was out in the mist and the fog. And as I got closer to Belfast, we went up the lock, Belfast Lock, and I saw the big gantryways at Harland and Wolff that my dad used to tell me about, where he worked. Came into Belfast and got on a cab, got to my hotel, and the next day I thought I'd go up and see where my mom was from. So I was welcomed up there by the town people, and saw the very street my mom lived on, the street I was born on, the hospital area where I was born, where my parents used to congregate. And then the next day I went up to a music shop to grab a new pair of drumsticks that had just come out, and they weren't available here in the US, so I thought I'd grab them up there. And when I came out of the music shop, I thought, wow, this is my dad's neighborhood. This is where Dad grew up. I've seen Mom's neighborhood. I've got to go see Dad. So as luck would have it, I was in Belfast, so the rain started to pour. And I had my trusty little umbrella. I brought it out, and I thought rather than call a cab and head back to the hotel right away, I'd take a little walk. So as I walked, and the rain was coming down pretty good, as I recall, I came up to the first signal where it was red, and I had to wait until it turned green, and I looked up at the building, and there on the side of the building was Clandy Street, which is where my dad grew up. So I felt like, you know, my dad kind of led me that way, and my mom led me that way in her neighborhood. As I walked through there, just different names of streets came back to me that I always heard my dad talking about. So the rain kept coming down, and I was getting drenched. And so I thought, well, I'll do what most Irish people do here. I'll duck into the nearest pub and have a pint and let the rain subside, which is what I did. And I got to talking to the bartender there and asked him how old the bar was. He said it was over 100 years old, and it had gone through 6 or 8 name changes, but the original name was the Leningrad Bar. Boom, another light went off. That's where my dad used to go after work with his buddies after they got done at the shipyards. So I was pretty happy about that. So it was a great trip. I felt both my mom and dad were with me on the trip. As I said, I felt a little bad about the timing of Mom's death, but I did do the trip, and I promised her I would. And I'm really glad that I did. So I just wanted to share that with everybody, and I want to thank everybody from our family, and we just want to thank everybody for making it out today. Thank you.
Thank you.